You look at what Ferrari is doing now, you're like, well, it's another weekend, it's another botched strategy. It's another weekend where Ferrari just didn't do what we think that they can do. And all the rumors about Vasseur's like job situation and them blasting the Italian media saying this is ridiculous. Both drivers basically did the same thing. My question is, why point to him? I realize that everything rolls downhill and he's the big guy. But if they get rid of Fred, are they actually making Ferrari better?
I don't think so. I think this is the issue they face. Is one, who do you replace him with? Is there someone lined up to replace him? Not that I'm aware of. And I think that would be an issue. This year as well, there's this kind of luxury in a way that the rules completely change next year. If you take Fred out now and replace him, even if you replace him with someone exceptional, like a Total Wolf, whatever, to get the team all working as it should in time for 2026, and if they have got the ingredients for 26 to be competitive, that could also fall apart just because you have the wrong person at the very top. So that's why I don't think Fred's job should be at risk. But this is Ferrari. I mean, as we've mentioned before on this podcast, Nate had written a book on Ferrari and the reasons why they haven't won a world championship since 2007, 2008 for the constructors. And sometimes it is, I think, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's just, you know, losing the good bits along with just, reacting to this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But I think they have to wait to 26. Okay, if 26 is a disaster, if it's like 2014 when they went into that regulation change and they were nowhere, sure. I think, Fred's position is absolutely under threat, as it probably should be. But right now, it would be madness, in my opinion, to get rid of Fred.
I think as well, if they do go into next year and it's a disaster and they're off the pace, Fred's position, I think, yeah, you're right. You'd have to look at it, but I think there's still a deeper questions about Ferrari, right? You would say, how is it again that you've had a several year lead into a rule change, and you've kind of been caught out. You haven't produced what your rivals have produced, and that would, I think there's deeper issues than who is just leading the team. Is it a resources issue? Is it a mindset issue? Is it, are there forces at play that affect the wider team? One of the things that I spoke in the book about when I spoke to Inaki Rueda, who used to be head of strategy, was much maligned when he was there, and I have to say, is doing a great job in the same role at Sauber at the moment because he's been calling some absolutely superb races that Nico Hulkenberg's been executing really, really well to score a lot of points. He said one thing he noticed when he was at Ferrari was when a team is kind of siloed away developing a car for the new season, they're fantastic because they're not swayed by the pressure. They're not swayed by what the media is writing. They're like, right, we're just in a box here. It's the team working on the current car that get misled by the politics of the higher ups. They get misled by the politics of, middle management. They get misled by, by the media talking like they are right now about this needs to happen, this needs to happen. And then snap decisions gets made, like getting rid of Fred Vasseur, like changing the development course that they're on. So his theory, and he was there for a few years. He went through two different rule cycle changes. He said there's nothing actually wrong with Ferrari in how it goes about preparing for new rule changes. It's how everything externally affects the day-to-day decision making. And I think it was a really smart way of looking at that team, and kind of you can look at that from the last couple of years. And so to that point, getting rid of Fred, I mean, I don't see what it would do. And Formula One is not like the NFL or the Premier League where you have loads of out of work managers who have won a World Cup or have won a Super Bowl, and it's like, hey, I'm here, guys, if you want me. If you're Ferrari, your options really are, Lawrence mentioned one of them, Toto Wolff, Christian Horner, who has been in the news, and I think those stories about him going to Ferrari were very well timed in terms of his position at Red Bull. I think it just was, I don't think there was much to that, even though he gets on very well with John Elkann. You really don't have that. There's talk of, and the name has completely escaped me, the guy who's just led Ferrari to a third straight Le Mans
Oh, the
24
guy
hours
in Le
title.
Mans. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
should know his name, but
so
it's
should I.
escaped from me. But yeah, exactly. But like Le Mans, the WEC, the World Endurance Championship, is such a different proposition to Formula One. Just the idea that because you're successful there, you're going to be able to come over to Formula One and suddenly win. Very short-sighted. I'm sure that there's a lot of talented people that come over and can do that, but it's so different. So yeah, I don't think there's an answer there. And uh, the worry I have now is that all of this pressure will lead to Ferrari making snap decisions now, even if they keep Fred being kind of lent on a little bit to make decisions now about the car they're developing for the rest of the season, but also the car they're developing for 26, that they make purely because of this pressure that then has a negative impact next season. And then we're back to square one in March, April, May, whatever, when Ferrari are off the pace. And they're like, oh, this is because we reacted to whatever was happening 12 months ago. And it's the same story with Ferrari over and over again. So Fred, to his credit, I like the way he came and responded to it. He has to just be the shield against all of that and say, we're not changing course, we're doing this. And John Elkann above him has to back him. I mean, John Elkann is the guy who put him in charge. So hopefully they see sense and keep him. But this is Ferrari we're talking about. You know, it could change very quickly. I don't know.
One, it's wild to me that you can be in a position in Formula One like Ferrari and have outside forces be that influential. You're in one of the most coveted situations in motorsports, period. End of story. Stop talking. That is it. You are leading Ferrari, which means you have the history, you have the pedigree, you're not new. They didn't bring in a rookie to be their team principal. So I feel there should be some level of, I know how to deal with this. It's wild to me that someone could go out there and be like, you're not doing a good enough job. And all of a sudden you're going to change course because you feel the pressure. In that position, you should be impervious to the pressure. So it's wild to me that that's even a conversation. But the big thing for me is if you're going to make a change, you have to make a change that makes you better. Getting rid of him now for a variety of reasons, but one of them being his relationship that he has with the drivers, you can't do that. You're not making the team better if you get rid of him. You are immediately making the team worse. If you want to bring in the wet guy, and we should know his name, but we can't remember it, and that's fine. But like, if you're going
that
to,
says a lot as well, right? Like, you know,
Right.
he's not a name. He's not
but
a
if
name
you're going
in
to
the same way.
bring him in and start, for lack of a better word, grooming him within the Formula One program. And maybe someday when Fred wants to step away, or you really legitimately do need to make a change, then you've got your guy in the position and he's been in the environment. But making that change now seems just asinine to me.
Fred Vasseur was the hero of Maranello, who brought Lewis Hamilton in. The
Yeah.
whole vibe around that team was so different. And I realized that, you know, that's part of why the Italian media have turned against them so much, because the expectations were built so high. But, you know, Fred is building something there over time. And I think really as well, you've got to look at the, you know, the fundamental like mistakes that they've made with this car. And the reasons why, you know, the processes why they led that way. You know, it seems like it's unable to run in its happy place in terms of, you know, its ground, its ride height and getting the floor to work. They had a big change in front suspension, but they did all that for good reasons. They did it for reasons which basically they felt that their previous car concept had hit a ceiling and therefore they needed to make a change. Now, clearly, you know, that change hasn't yielded the results they wanted, but you've got to look at the reasons for that. And I think, you know, it's if you look at the successful teams, the teams that have been rooted over years and years and years and continue to fight for world championships. In the modern era, you got Mercedes with Toto Wolff at the top and very much a no blame culture over time, where if there are issues, then you look at the reasons for it and you do that rather than just going on a firing spree. And then you look at Red Bull. Christian Horner has been there since the moment Red Bull started up. They've had highs, Sebastian Vettel era of winning championships, lows, highs again with Max Verstappen. These things can turn around when you start to focus in on what the issues are. And then even if you look at McLaren right now, it's been built on stability. Zach Brown came in, started to look at, you know, the various areas that he needed to find improvements. They cycled through a few team principles for sure, but when they found Andrea Stella, they realized this is a guy we need to back. This is a guy who's got the backing of the factory, of the engineering departments, also understands those engineering departments, could start to put things in the right place, and they move forward. And now they're going to probably win both world championships this year. So that's, you know, that's how you build success in F1. And I think, you know, considering Fred's relatively short tenancy in that job, to get rid of him now would be madness.